The moment I saw her face go pale in that courtroom, I knew it was over. Not just the trial, not just the lies, everything. My ex-husband's mistress, the woman who destroyed my marriage, my reputation, and nearly my sanity, sat frozen as the judge read the verdict. Her perfectly manicured hands trembled against the table. Marcus, my ex, wouldn't even look at her. And me? I felt nothing but the quiet, cold satisfaction of someone who had clawed their way back from hell and emerged holding all the cards. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted most? Let me back up. 3 years ago, I was a different woman. I was Mrs. Amelia Chen, wife of Marcus Chen, a successful real estate developer in Seattle. We had the kind of life people envied from the outside. A beautiful home in Queen Anne, dinner parties with influential friends, charity galas where we smiled for cameras. I ran a boutique art gallery downtown, something I'd built from nothing over 8 years. Marcus supported it, or so I thought. He'd kiss my forehead and say, "You're the creative one, babe. I just move money around." I believed him. I believed everything. Our marriage wasn't perfect. Whose is? But I thought we were solid. 15 years together. No kids, but we discussed it. Maybe next year, we always said. Next year when the business stabilizes, next year when we take that trip to Italy we kept postponing. Next year, always next year. Then came Sienna. She was 28, a marketing consultant Marcus hired for one of his development projects. Blonde, ambitious, with that particular kind of confidence that comes from knowing men find you attractive and never having faced real consequences. She started appearing at our events. Marcus mentioned her casually. Sienna had a great idea for the Pearl District project, or Sienna thinks we should pivot our social media strategy. I noticed, but I didn't panic. I trusted my husband. 15 years of marriage doesn't crumble because of a young woman with good ideas, right? Wrong. The discovery came on a Tuesday. I'd come home early from the gallery because of a migraine. The house was supposed to be empty. Marcus had a site meeting across town, but his car was in the driveway, and so was hers. I don't need to paint the picture for you. You've seen this story in movies. You know what I found in my own bedroom, in my own home, in the bed I'd picked out at that boutique furniture store on our 10th anniversary. What you can't know is the sound I made. This animal noise that came from somewhere so deep inside me I didn't recognize my own voice, or the way Marcus didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He looked annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. "Amelia, I can explain," he said, pulling on his pants. I didn't wait for the explanation. I walked out, drove to a hotel, and cried until I threw up. But here's the thing about that moment. It wasn't just about the affair. That came later. That night, lying in that sterile hotel room, I realized the affair was probably just the visible wound. The real damage went deeper. Over the next week, as I stayed with my sister and tried to process everything, the truth began emerging in pieces. Phone records I subpoenaed through my lawyer. Bank statements I'd never looked at carefully because I trusted Marcus with our finances. Email trails my attorney's investigator uncovered. The affair had been going on for 18 months. 18 months. But worse, so much worse. Marcus and Sienna had been systematically planning to squeeze me out of everything. My gallery's building? Marcus owned the property. I'd signed a lease not knowing he'd already planned to sell it to a developer, one of Sienna's clients who would demolish it for condos. My savings? Marcus had been quietly draining our joint accounts into offshore investments I knew nothing about. The prenup I'd signed when we got married, young and stupid and in love. His lawyer had written it, and it protected almost everything Marcus had built during our marriage. They had planned this, not just the affair, the destruction of my entire life. And Sienna? She wasn't just his mistress. She was his business partner. The consulting had been real. She'd been consulting on how to eliminate me as efficiently as possible while Marcus got everything. The house, the money, the connections, the reputation. They'd even planted stories with mutual friends about how I was difficult, unstable, controlling. laying groundwork so when the divorce came, people would nod sympathetically at Marcus and whisper about poor him, trapped in a marriage to a woman who'd let herself go. The divorce papers arrived at my sister's house. Marcus wanted everything finalized quickly and quietly. He offered me a settlement, $200,000 and the gallery's remaining inventory, for 15 years of marriage and 8 years of building a business. The prenup, his lawyer explained smoothly, was ironclad. I had two choices: take the insult or fight. My sister Claire begged me to fight. Don't let them do this to you, Mimi. Don't just disappear. But fighting meant lawyers I couldn't afford, a trial that would drain what little savings I had left, and the very real possibility of losing anyway. Marcus had money, power, connections. I had a failing gallery and a broken heart. That night, I sat in Claire's guest room and stared at my reflection. I looked older than 39, hollowed out. I'd lost 15 pounds I didn't need to lose. My hair was going gray at the temples, and I felt this crushing weight of humiliation. Not just that my husband had betrayed me, but that I'd been too blind, too trusting, too stupid to see it coming. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy now. Marcus is free of you. You were holding him back his entire life. Some women know when to step aside gracefully. It was Sienna. She'd gotten my number somehow and decided to twist the knife. Something inside me shifted in that moment. Not broke, shifted. Like tectonic plates rearranging themselves into new geography. I wasn't going to disappear. I wasn't going to take their scraps and slink away. I was going to burn their entire plan to the ground, and I was going to do it the right way, legally, strategically, completely. I hired Catherine Voss. Catherine was a divorce attorney with a reputation for being ruthless and expensive. Our first consultation cost $500 I barely had. I walked into her downtown office wearing the only professional clothes I own that still fit, and I laid out everything. The affair, the financial manipulation, the business scheme. Sienna's involvement, the coordinated character assassination. Catherine listened, made notes, and finally looked up at me. Do you want to survive this or do you want to win? What's the difference? Surviving means you take a better settlement. We negotiate some dignity back. You start over. Winning means we prove fraud. We expose everything. And we take them apart piece by piece in court. But winning is expensive, brutal, and not guaranteed. How expensive? $50,000 retainer. Could go higher depending on what we find. I didn't have $50,000. I barely had $5,000, but I said, I want to win. Catherine smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a shark that just smelled blood. Then let's get to work. Here's what I learned over the next 18 months. Revenge isn't a hot emotion. It's cold. It's meticulous. It's showing up every day, even when you want to lie in bed and cry. It's documentation. It's patience. It's letting people underestimate you. I sold everything I could. My car, my jewelry, paintings from my personal collection. I moved into a studio apartment in Ballard, took a job managing a coffee shop, and gave Catherine every penny I could scrape together. She earned it. Her team of investigators and forensic accountants uncovered what Marcus and Sienna thought they'd hidden: the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the way Sienna's consulting fees were actually kickbacks from the properties Marcus sold, properties he'd undervalued on paper to reduce our marital assets, while pocketing the real profits through her fake company. They'd committed fraud, not just against me, against the IRS, against business partners, against buyers who thought they were getting fair deals. Catherine built the case like an architect. Every document cross-referenced, every email time-stamped, every financial transaction traced. And we found something even more valuable. Sienna had been doing this before. She'd done it to another married man in Portland. Different city, same scheme. That guy had paid her off quietly to avoid scandal. But we found him. And he agreed to testify. Marcus and Sienna had no idea what was coming. They thought they'd won. They'd moved into a new penthouse together downtown, got engaged. Sienna posted photos on Instagram with captions about new beginnings and finding your person. Marcus gave interviews to business magazines about his success, his vision, his beautiful young fiancée who really understood his work. Meanwhile, I worked the coffee shop morning shift, went to court prep sessions with Catherine in the evenings, and rebuilt myself in the margins. People from my old life occasionally came into the shop. Some recognized me. Most looked uncomfortable, got their lattes quickly, and left. A few asked how I was doing with fake concern in their voices. I smiled and said, "Never better," and they clearly thought I was delusional. One person didn't think that. James. James had been a client of my gallery years ago, a tech executive who collected emerging artists. He came in one morning, did a double take and said, "Amelia?" I braced myself for pity. Instead, he said, "I heard what happened. Marcus is an idiot." We started talking. Not dating. I wasn't ready for that, and I told him so. Just talking. He'd come in for coffee, we'd chat about art, about life, about nothing important. He never asked invasive questions, never offered unsolicited advice, just showed up. Why? I finally asked him one day, "Why do you keep coming here?" "Because I remember who you were," he said, "and I can see who you're becoming. And I like both versions." It wasn't romance, not yet. It was something better. It was someone seeing me as a person instead of a tragedy. The trial started on a rainy March morning. Marcus's legal team was expensive and polished. They'd planned to paint me as a bitter ex-wife making wild accusations. They'd lined up character witnesses who would testify about my jealous and paranoid behavior during the marriage. They'd prepared financial experts who would explain how everything Marcus did was perfectly legal, just smart business. Catherine let them go first. Let them build their narrative. Let them feel confident. Then she dismantled them. The forensic accountants took the stand and walked the jury through the fraud with PowerPoint presentations that made it impossible to deny. The Portland victim testified about Sienna's identical pattern. The email chains between Marcus and Sienna were read aloud, not just the affair stuff, but the cold calculations about how to handle the Amelia problem while protecting their assets. One email from Sienna to Marcus, dated 6 months before I found them together. "She'll be devastated initially, but women like her always land on their feet. She'll probably find some other guy to take care of her. Don't feel guilty. You're doing her a favor. She'll eventually realize she wasn't built for your world." Another, from Marcus to Sienna. "The gallery is bleeding money anyway. We can use the property sale to justify the divorce. Settlement. By the time she realizes what happened, we'll be untouchable." I sat in that courtroom listening to the man I'd loved for 15 years describe me like I was a business problem to be solved. And I felt nothing. The grief had burned itself out months ago. Now there was just clarity. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts of financial fraud. The prenup was invalidated due to fraudulent inducement. The court ordered Marcus to pay restitution plus damages. Sienna faced criminal charges for her role in the scheme. But the real victory came in what happened next. The business magazines that had fawned over Marcus ran exposés. The investors who trusted him pulled out. The properties he was developing went into legal limbo as partners sued. Sienna's engagement ring went up for auction to pay her legal fees. Their penthouse went into foreclosure. My settlement? $3.2 million the gallery building, which I promptly sold to an arts nonprofit for fair market value. And something intangible but invaluable. My reputation restored. The friends who'd believed the lies about me called to apologize. The art world, which had quietly distanced itself, welcomed me back. I didn't reopen the gallery. That version of me was gone. Instead, I took the settlement money and started a foundation supporting women rebuilding after divorce. Legal funds, business grants, counseling services, everything I'd needed and barely found. And James? We took it slow. Started dating officially 6 months after the trial. He never tried to rescue me or fix me. He just walked beside me. A year later, he proposed. I said yes, but on one condition: a postnut protecting what I'd built. He signed it without hesitation and said, "I'm marrying you, not your money." We got married in a small ceremony in Claire's backyard. No big party, no spectacle, just the people who'd stood by me when I had nothing. I saw Sienna one more time, about a year after the trial. I was having lunch with James at a restaurant downtown, and she walked in. She looked different, harder, older. She saw me, froze, and for a second I thought she might leave. Instead, she walked over to our table. "Amelia," she said. Her voice was quiet. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what I did, for all of it." I looked at her for a long moment. There was a time when I'd fantasized about this moment, about her broken and begging, about me delivering some devastating line that would destroy her the way she'd destroyed me. But sitting there, with James's hand in mine, with my foundation thriving, with a life I'd built from ashes that was somehow better than the one I'd lost, I realized I didn't need that. "Thank you for apologizing," I said. "I hope you figure out who you want to be." She nodded and walked away. James squeezed my hand. "That was generous," he said. "No," I replied. "That was letting go." Because here's the truth I learned. Revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about refusing to let them destroy you. It's about standing back up every single time they knock you down. It's about fighting smart instead of fighting angry. It's about building something new from the ruins of what they burned. Marcus texts me occasionally, usually drunk, usually late at night, variations on the same theme: that he made a mistake, that Sienna was manipulative, that I was the one who really understood him. I don't respond. There's nothing left to say to him. That marriage, that version of me, that life, it's all as dead as something can be without a funeral. My foundation is thriving. We've helped 47 women in 3 years. Some of them come through completely broken, the way I was. Some of them cry in my office the way I cried in Catherine's. And I tell them the same thing every time: you will survive this. And if you want to, you'll do more than survive. Last month, one of those women, a teacher whose husband had embezzled her retirement funds, texted me after her court victory. "I won. Thank you for teaching me I was worth fighting for." That message meant more than any settlement check. James and I just celebrated our first anniversary. We're talking about kids now. Maybe adopting, maybe trying. We're not in a hurry. There's no next year pressure, no postponing life. We're living it now, messily and imperfectly and honestly. Sometimes I think about the woman I was 3 years ago, the one who trusted too easily, who loved too blindly, who built her identity around being someone's wife. I don't miss her, but I don't hate her either. She did the best she could with what she knew. And she taught me this: sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the door to the best version of yourself. Sienna was right about one thing in that text she sent me all those years ago. Some women do know when to step aside gracefully, but I'm not that woman. I'm the one who burned it all down and built something better from the ashes. I'm the one who chose herself. I'm the one who learned that love isn't something you find or lose. It's something you give yourself first, and then share with people who've earned it. She said I'd never find love again. She was wrong. I found something better. I found myself. And it turns out that was what I'd been missing all along. In the end, the best revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. It's becoming someone they can never touch again.